Hear the world calling, but some don't listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison. That's right. Hear the light.
Hi, welcome to What Have You?
What have you?
Not much. I have not much.
We're changing up our routine tonight.
Yeah, broadcasting live in the dark from the Walmart parking lot.
It's after dinner today.
We're here because I need coffee for tomorrow. It's after dinner in the dark of the night.
And we're drinking coffee to get ourselves through
the rest of the night.
Times.
The rest of what's going on tonight. But the good news is we have a whole day behind us, so we should have lots to talk about
we have
now.
Much to reflect upon.
Becca, what did you do today?
Oh, it seemed like a lot of driving around, actually.
No,
it
probably was
a ridiculous amount of attempts to get to the bank.
Did you run past the moose today?
Oh, no, but we saw the moose. So, okay, Moscow has had some moose drop in during the winter.
It's actually been kind of a moose infestation.
It is. I think it's not. See, everybody sees them in pairs because they travel in pairs. So you see two moose here or there, and everyone's posting about this on Facebook. But I think there's more than one pair of moose. So
and one died at the environmental institute.
We shouldn't laugh at the death of a moose.
Not the poor moose, except for it's pretty funny that he ate a bunch of poisonous leaves or something at the environmental institute.
It was just a poignant moment. I think.
It's funny. Sorry,
Yeah.
That's where he died.
No, but we had the moose trotting around. My mother-in-law got stuck in her house because the moose were between her and her car. She couldn't go out.
And Moscow is a rural town, but we don't normally have moose.
We don't have flocks of moose.
They were in the city park today, and they were there's been bulletins from the police to please not call them about the moose. Just exercise caution when you see them.
Already,
we know they're here. But then they were in the city park today and apparently charged a dog and charged some woman walking. They're not being cool anymore.
I watched them just
They're losing their heads.
They marched right from one yard to the next yard, and there was a fence in between, and it was it didn't matter. They walked through it like it was a bush. And it was.
I spilled my coffee on myself.
But see, it was
Not
they
good.
just stepped right over the one wooden fence, but then a wire fence, they just charged through
Didn't
it.
matter. Can't stop them.
And they're just eating things out of people's yards and
killing themselves on the
but then they
bushes.
jaunt out into the traffic, and then they just kind of wander around in the.
It's not been safe in Moscow with this situation.
No. So anyway, we've had the moose, but I didn't interact.
I
with
haven't
the
actually
moose
seen
today.
them except for my daily update from friends on Facebook or Instagram who have them.
I'll let you know. See, my mother-in-law called and said the moose are in my yard, so I immediately yelled at the kids to run, get in the car, and we drove over, and then we stalked them for an hour. We just kind of followed them around. And
so that's what you did.
No, I didn't.
It's not today. It's what you did in the past.
Time. That was 3 days ago.
But today what you did was reminisce about the time you saw the...
No, today I went to an early morning meeting, and then I taught my classes. I teach high school classes, so I did that, and then I tried too many times to go to the bank. I made dinner. It was not glamorous today.
My day today was, I made bread. I made a bread, and the good news is the results are in, and it was beautiful, and it tasted good. But it was a really hilariously high needs bread today, because not needing high needs. It was a needy bread where I guess it was probably because Moses napped and I needed to go to the grocery store. So all of it worked out to be every half hour of my day, I needed to do something to the bread. And then the window.
Well, she's making a kind of a quest for the authentic country loaf. It's not just I'll whip up a roll.
Well, what's
which
funny
is
is
much more low maintenance.
So a friend of mine, I bake plenty. So I have made a lot of breads in my life. But a friend of mine got a book called Tartine. It's a San Francisco bakery.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book. Got it for Christmas for my husband. And she was like, well, it just feels a little overwhelming. And she was like, I think I want to loan it to you and see if you'll try it first. and then you can tell me how it went or something. This was her reasoning. So she brings it to me, and I looked at it, and I thought, yeah, that seems pretty intense. But I am such a sucker because I sat down and read those first 80 pages on the country loaf, and then I was a goner. I was off trying to start my own
She's
sourdough.
Like running around capturing yeast in the wild.
Yes, just with my little fishing net, catching the yeasts of the air. No, but I made my own sourdough starter, and I baked a couple rounds of bread, just other recipes with the sourdough starter to make sure it was alive, it was ready to go. And today, well, technically starting last night, I started the actual tartine country loaf.
And you have the battens, don't you? So
I don't know if it's called a batten, the Banneton, or
a Banneton?
Banneton, the basket, the bread baskets. There's a Banneton or
batten.
a brat
What's
form.
A batten then?
I don't know. Batten is batten down the hatches.
No, I'm gonna have to Google this because you talk about your country loaf.
It might be really. That's actually like another name for like a baguette, isn't it? Like
yeah,
the long. That's not the equipment.
I'm looking on your phone because my phone is recording.
What?
Yeah.
Look it up.
I'm looking
Okay.
it up.
Anyways, I have a Banneton, or it's also called a brat form. The basket called. I don't know.
Oh, I'm spelling it wrong. Okay, so anyways, she made it. It's beautiful. It
turned out really well, but it was a very funny
sent-
and involved day. But I'll tell you that my real concern, that because I started trying to make this particular loaf of bread like a solid.
No, it's
fortnight ago.
Wait, no,
solid fortnight.
No, I think I'm just making up words. Maybe.
What's a surnite?
Banneton. I looked it up and it is coming up as the basket, but maybe it's just. What are you asking me? I'm distracted. I'm Googling.
We're doing a podcast, but don't worry, Becca's just going to be on her phone.
No, look, like a breadboard and batten.
Okay.
Yeah, never mind. I'll find that out later. I'm going to have to do some checking up.
Stay tuned for next week's update. Anyways, so I started this. Well, I don't know the difference between a fortnight and a surnite, but...
A fortnight is 2 weeks.
Well, that's how long I've been trying to make this loaf of bread.
You just made up surnite. I don't think that's a thing.
Well, whatever we do, let's not Google it now.
I just made up batten and you made up surnite.
Clearly, we should not do this at night.
No, we should drink more coffee.
Anyway, what we're trying to say is that we had I looked it up on Instagram because this is like a 12 night. I mean, I've been making the starter. I've been working on it. And then last night was the first time I started the leaven for the loaf last night. So get it all going. And then that's what I used this morning. Well, the funny thing is, so that was last night, then this morning, and it was done at dinner time today, and it involved a lot of.
This is high maintenance. It
was, and I don't think it would
be. This is an authentic country loaf because.
Well, I wonder. I do wonder.
I don't think those women had enough time to fuss around.
Well, but they're all easy things to do with it. It's just that the first time through, it takes forever because you have to read a full 2 paragraphs where it's like, use the bench knife to gently fold the dough furthest away from you, a third of the way over you like have to process all of the information and work through it.
Yeah. No, anyways, you'll get the hang of it.
I will definitely make it again because all of my children raved about it. My husband raved about it. And
well, see, like we were making Moroccan flatbreads the other week after church. The girls and I, and it's weird. It's a different kind of, like, it's not a roll out the flatbread and fry it like normal flatbread. Or I guess more like a Mediterranean flatbread. I don't know. Moroccan is Mediterranean. Anyway, it is too late. I'm double thinking everything. Like, wait, Morocco's on the Mediterranean. You know what I mean? It's not like a Greek flatbread. But you have to like oil your hands and then oil the board and then squidge it out and then dust semolina flour over it and then fold it into a little packet and then oil your hands and press it out again.
Better? Do you like it?
Well, it makes a square flatbread. And then you fry, like, it's a totally different technique, but I know what you're saying because, like, it takes forever the first time because you're trying to make,
like after you did it once, it's no big whoop.
Yeah, and then we did it a second time and we whipped them out and it was totally great. But You just have to kind of get
I will
your
say
head
the
around
part-
the process.
The part that almost did me in is I slash my bread a lot, but this is a different method where doing it in the Dutch oven. And so after I flipped it into the Dutch oven, it's like trying to slash a pretty design on a loaf that's in the bottom of
That's
my
not easy because the
huge
sides
Dutch
get
oven.
like,
No, that is heated to 500 degrees already. It's a hot Dutch oven.
crumb.
So I like pulled my sweatshirt
Yeah.
sleeve down so that if I smashed my arm on the side of it, I wouldn't. But then I was too gentle.
You need like a scimitar, like a curved blade.
I actually ordered it. I used to have one, a lame to slash the bread. It's like a curved razor blade.
See, it is a scimitar. All right,
What?
there you go.
I don't think it's a scimitar. Oh my gosh. We are too tired because I totally thought you were pulling up a samovar.
We need like
What you need is a special Russian coffee making implement.
no
More accurately slash your loaf.
Scimitar,
I get
as
it.
used by Kellermans in Narnia.
Woo.
Whoa!
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta not do this at night again.
Okay.
I think you
So
better catch
anyway.
us in the daytime if you want to get sensible thoughts out of us.
Anyway, so Rachel spent all day making a loaf of bread.
Yeah, I did, and I
She did that.
succeeded, which was a mercy.
She did because she texted me photos, and it was like the most stunning looking. loaf
But
you've
better
ever
than
seen.
this, the funny part is that when I was anticipating my starter finally being ready for the loaf, for the final show, and I was like, we're ready to go. We're reliable. We've trained up the yeast in the way it should go. I'm ready to do this. I made the mistake of browsing Instagram. I was looking
That is a mistake.
I was looking for
Almost always.
yeah, but I was looking for a hashtag involving sourdough. I was trying to find because I wanted some inspiration for people's spectacular sourdough work. Anyways,
Okay.
what came up was some poor person's loaf that I was like, this is what's gonna happen, and it looked like a deflating air mattress or like a really bad lazy boy, and the color was kind of that fleshy, like
Kind
it
of a
could have
Lazy
been
Boy
mauve.
color.
It could have been
Yeah.
mauve, yeah, a
Yeah.
little lightly mottled, but it had, but they had scored it like a tic-tac-toe game, basically, and so then it sunk in and made these little puckered squares, and I was like, oh. I was just imagining myself being like, my husband be like, so what's this bread? And me being like, oh, this whole thing only took me 2 weeks to make. Devoted myself to this bread for 2 weeks, and out comes a soft, puffy, sad-looking
Squidge.
thing.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, dear.
And then so it's a good thing that didn't happen. But in the time where I was anticipating that result, I was thinking about how that ciabatta, isn't it, from the Italian, means like a slipper, like a.
Don't ask me. I'm not.
Yeah,
on
it's not
my-
our
It's
night
not
for
my
words.
best for vocab trivia.
But ciabatta does mean slipper, and I was thinking how
I'm
funny
gonna
that is.
Google
That
it.
somebody was like, "Well, it's good, but it looks like a slipper. Let's just call it ciabatta." And so I was thinking that I was like, "What could this be? Like instead of a country loaf, we could just call it the futon."
I'm just kind of stuck back on that's not a cute slipper. Whatever it was that they
It's
were.
not an attractive shoe. You should
No.
try harder in
Not a
all
good-
the things you do.
Not a good- Improve
Step up your
bread
fashion game
and improve
step up your bread.
slippers.
Although everybody likes the ciabatta rolls.
Yeah. So,
So-
did your kids like the bread?
Oh, they
After all
were
of
crazy
that?
for it. Yeah, they were all about it. And the cookbook is a beautiful cookbook, and I recommend it. And it had a lot of recipes in the back that I'm like, man, I would like this to get into my life as something I'm doing all the time, because like English muffins out of the same intensity of
Oh gosh,
bread.
I'm not at a make your own English muffin phase of life.
Well, I'm not saying I am either. It might not ever happen, but the loaf happened.
In fact, shamelessly purchased the ciabatta rolls for dinner tonight.
Shameless.
Shameless.
So
I did
shameless.
not craft
What I
them.
did was make bread today. So then for dinner, I whipped up one of the world's speediest curried tomato soups. So basically we just ate the bread for dinner because it was all I did, actually. But we had soup. It was good.
That sounds really good. I was supposed to have a book finished by today and turn it in tomorrow. But did I? No.
I didn't know you were writing a book. Which one is it?
I keep things from you.
What book is it? What book are you writing?
I didn't know you were writing a book until you unleashed that the other day, and I was like, what? When? What?
But what are you writing?
Classical education on classical
education.
Oh,
that's fun. I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah. It's actually aimed at, I shouldn't talk about this because who knows if I'll finish it.
It's aimed at the students. Okay, I do know about this.
At the students
but I didn't
themselves,
know you were really
because
doing
I think everybody pitches it to
it's so
parents,
true.
And they pitch it to, the teachers know why they're doing things, and the parents read the books, but the students are having it actually done to them. And I think that often they know kind of the hazy outlines, but they're not, And the other thing, too, that I think is that the way you talk to a parent about classical ed is actually quite different than the way you talk to a student about it.
It's not the same kind of persuasive.
Because the student's not interested in the same things. They're having something done to them almost without their consent. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's
it's
just like with any kid situation. It's not, the parents might be interested in the nutrition of things, right? But the kids are interested in how it tastes
good. Yeah, because the kid didn't sit down when he was a preschooler and read books on educational theory.
I'd like to know why you're having me memorize all these things.
This is what I'm going to do with my life. Like, it's just something that's happening to them. And so, anyway, it's not a long book. It's kind of a short.
I also had a book deadline that I have not achieved on.
Yeah, I was sending apologetic texts today.
Well, I didn't do that. I wrote a note that said, I'm not going to make that ambitious deadline. But the last time I really tried to write, I did not have 7 children. It was a different scene. It was like life was different. The situation was different. And it has turned out to be super hard to actually find the moments when I'm not obligated to be doing something else. When I'm not like, people are going to
I kind of tend to do it in tear the Band-Aid off, just gut it out and do a bunch of writing.
That's how I have in the past. It just hasn't panned out for me lately. Yeah. But I'm working on it. We'll get there.
So anyway, that was a lot of shenanigans about our day. What are you thinking about in terms of
deeper things?
Deeper
thinking
bread.
Things?
There's bread.
No, I'm going to keep talking about bread.
Okay, good.
So one of the things that was really funny about making a sourdough starter and working with sourdough was how much because it's just a natural leaven situation. It's so you start by making the culture. Many of you are probably more experienced at this than I am. You started making a culture, which is just flour and water, basically, but you stir it up. It just gets any natural yeasts from the air, from your hands, from all around. And bacteria grows with the yeast, and it develops a symbiotic relationship where the bacteria is growing and the yeast eats the bacteria.
Yeah.
So it happens over quite a bit of time.
Right.
But anyways, you start feeding it but the thing that just impressed me is leaven is used often in the Bible as an illustration because this was an old method that everyone would have been familiar with. Everybody was familiar with but doing it was it was an interesting spiritual exercise in thinking about that more deeply, what the poetry of that reference, what the poetry of that image is, because even though a little bit of yeast or a little bit of leaven, it's still remarkable what goes into maintaining the leavening is every time you feed it, it is throw away 80%. Throw away most of it.
Huh.
And then you put in fresh water and fresh yeast. And the thing that I was really thinking about is all of the different aspects that we don't. Well, for one, the fact that the leaven is in the air, that it's everywhere when it seems like it couldn't be anywhere, that it is there.
Yeah.
And it's the kingdom of God being like that when somewhere seems spiritually desolate and barren and nothing would ever happen here, that God is still. That the kingdom of God is present and active and living even when you can't see it or you're not sure what's, that. Plus then just discarding it. And then I was thinking in terms of what is the new food You know, like when you think about when the church is growing, when things are growing, what does it mean when you get rid of, discard 80%, discard a bunch of it? Well, part of it is it gets really unhealthy. If you're not getting rid of a lot of it, the ratios of things get really out of control, and it's not healthy anymore.
So what are you comparing that to?
Well, I was actually thinking about it in terms of the just interesting growth in community.
Because you don't mean
never clean
80%
and tidy.
of people, they lost their salvation, we cut them out.
No, I'm just meant...
Yeah, so what's your metaphor?
I think I just meant that it continues. I wasn't really thinking so much about that, except for the fact that when you feed it, like, what is God doing all the time to keep us thriving? And I was thinking how much it's trials.
Yeah,
and
trials, because it's like a forest fire, really.
Yes, it's like new situations. It's like, okay, this is totally new territory for you to thrive in. This is completely new, and that you continue in faithfulness. And but it will continue to be disorienting a lot of the time. Like, as soon as I'm not trying to be, I am definitely going too far on this metaphor, but the starter that's on my counter, as soon as it probably feels like it's really done a great job, that's when I scrape a bunch of it out and give it a whole new project.
But the other thing too, though, is the continuous nature of it, because you make a loaf of bread, but there's some of it still left to make another loaf of bread, and then you save some back to make another loaf of bread. If you think about the church being passed down through the millennia from one generation to another,
it's very like that. And also interesting,
and growing as the
yeasts
goes.
in the world are old, and same strains all over the world. Like, they're like, if you could make a sourdough starter here that was almost identical to one you could go find in Europe somewhere. It's like I just think it's an interesting thing. And the fact that it is mentioned so often, that little bit of leaven leavens the whole loaf, from that little bit of
I often think it's funny, like, if I'm out in the garden, you suddenly start realizing how many garden metaphors are in Scripture.
Oh, right, yeah.
If you're in the kitchen, you start thinking about how many baking metaphors are in Scripture, even down to things like salt, because, if the salt loses its saltiness, and like, you need to be salt in the world. Salt is one of those ingredients that is not subtle.
No.
So when you put it
such a difference.
It's there. And if you... forgot to put it in, it makes a difference. Even if it's just that half a teaspoon in the chocolate chip cookies, it makes a difference.
Sweets are boring without salt, and
so
savory things you can't taste.
Yeah, and it's really interesting how many almost domestic analogies are used in Scripture.
Very domestic.
And you just start, I don't know, when I'm in the garden, I'm always thinking
it's very
about...
true. But I think one of the things, when I said the 80%, I didn't mean that. Most of the time what happens is you can use that where
you throw it into a loaf,
you make it into bread. Yeah, and then you have the remainder that you feed. But the thing that I was thinking about is how many Christians go through times where someone that they thought was faithful in the Lord is not, or proves to not be,
it's
or
the seed that sprung up, and then
or then you have your family members flake off or stink out or do something that is. But for many Christians, it's like total heartbreak, because they, for whatever reason, have become more dependent on some of those relationships than they are on the relationship to God the Father, who is giving them trials to be faithful and them things to work through. And it is like this thing about, I don't know that I can believe anymore. Like where people get really wobbly because a friend is not being faithful, or really fearful or whatever. And I think, there's something really good about that image, just that God is doing things that are beyond our understanding when he's removes.
But there's also, throughout the created order, there's nothing really good produced without some level of trial or pain, or if you think about what the Scripture says about dross, melting away the dross,
But what about our breathtakingly beautiful sunsets that were because of crazy, horrible, disastrous wildfires not very far away? Like, here we can be like, oh my goodness, this incredibly beautiful fiery pink sunset, and it's like, it's all the smoke that's somewhere that made that so beautiful here.
Yeah, and a sculpture's not made without a lot of hammer and chisel action.
And blisters. Yeah, I think that's something that I've been thinking about lately, is just that not getting lazy and not thinking that because you were faithful at one point, that's enough to just keep you going for a long time.
I think there's always the illusion that you should be able to get through this trial and then live happily ever after.
Right. Like, and then I just have to learn this one lesson.
Yeah, and then life will be one unending Pinterest photo.
Or as I said, we're not going to any... Well, we're not on our way to any spiritual sandals resorts. Like, I think one time, long time ago, Mom and Dad were babysitting the Wilson, our brother's kids, 5 kids, while they were in New York for something. And it turned out to be one of those super ripe times. Like, if you had your own 5 kids, it would have been dicey. But when it was the grandparents watching the 5 kids, I think somebody started throwing up. Seamus got like an infected, or he was hit in the neck with a baseball or something at his practice, and then he got like an infected lymph node and had to go. He had like his neck was swelling up, and they had to take him to the ER in the middle of the night, and someone else was puking, and like a bunch of things were going wrong. And at some point in that day, I was texting with my husband. Something was going wrong in my life. Who can imagine what that could have been? I probably was pregnant with Moses. Things were just not, somehow things were not panning out to be real easy peasy spiritually for me in that day. And my husband texts me back. He's like, chin up. If all goes according to plan, in about 35 years, we could be taking our grandkids to the ER and cleaning up puke and having... And it was such a good thing for me to think about, because my parents are continuing on working very hard and they did not retire or try to get out of business at all. And it was like, what was I thinking that I thought I wanted a day without a trial? Like, I would like today. And that's something that's an interesting thing to do, is in your prayer life to pray specifically that God would help you to see the thing today, that you can be faithful in. What's the thing today that I can, faithfully
that you
get
can master?
Past?
Because it's kind of like your sanctification. I mean, God will keep on working on that same lesson. If you don't learn it, He'll keep on.
Right, but the excitement of learning it is to get the next one.
Is that you'll go to the next one, and that doesn't mean that now you don't get any more lessons. It means you've graduated to the next one up.
Congratulations, you did that. Here's your next math problem.
Right. Okay, so how about now? Quick. You're going to turn on some music in your house as you clean or as you feed your bread, or whatever you fuss around and do with your bread. What music are you going to turn on? What's your go-to right now?
I like Something Good This Way Comes by Jacob Dylan.
Okay.
That's fun. Yeah. I have a Pandora station that's based off of that, but I skip a lot of songs because I don't like them that much. But that one I really like, and it has this beautiful section where he sings "Sweet Apple Pie on the Stove." Yeah. You know that line?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
And then it's a guitar, isn't it? That comes in, that guitar, that really beautiful guitar melody. Probably. It's like a I think it is. I'm gonna have to go listen to it anyways. I had a moment when that was like a new song in my life, where it came on and I actually had just made apple pie, and there was an apple pie on the stove, and that it was like this gorgeous day where the window was open and the sun was shining in, and the air, it was like, It was like the birds were singing and the house was clean, and I'd made a pie, and then Jacob Dylan sang about that sweet apple pie on the stove, and I was like, amen.
And so, ever after
I do like that. I do like that song. Yeah.
Okay. Who's your favorite songwriter?
Oh, man. I have some that I like a lot, but that I really do not consistently listen to music now, because it's like the one noise I can turn off. Like, there's a lot of noise in my life, and most of it is not optional. And I find usually I'll turn on music and I feel really good about it for the first few minutes, and then I'm like, I'm going to have a headache if we keep having this.
When you don't want that. I mean, like, you're by yourself, the house is quiet, you're going to clean. What do you
Oh
turn
man.
on?
Okay, so I have a problem with this. I like some songs by like Mumford and Sons. I like them on a few songs, but I get car sick after I just need them spaced out between other things.
Sure.
It's too much all at once. Yeah. We both grew up liking Mark Knopfler.
Well,
we grew up liking Bob Dylan.
No, you know what? I keep going back to that Communique album by Dire Straits right now. It's like such a good album.
He's good. He just is a man with skills.
Yeah, he's good.
And we are not sure that there are any songs that he has not sung about. I mean, any topics.
But he's good as a songwriter. I like his breadth of topics.
Well, he could, the fact that he just, wrote a song about the making of the Mason-Dixon line.
Or Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, did that.
Or the founder of McDonald's.
Yeah, handled that. Or televangelists.
Or carnivals.
Or the person with the toilet paper dispenser that sings. I mean, the host with the most?
My Parties, I think, is what that was.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, he
good. Just covers the waterfront.
That and yeah, no, I keep turning
and Bob Dylan we like. Bob Dylan is
man,
just good.
I can't help it.
I haven't listened to him much lately.
It's his lyrics are just basically the only times I have ever been listening to a song and I thought, "Oh my word, that was an amazing line." What? And I went back
look it up. It's always Bob Dylan.
It's always Bob Dylan. Mm-hmm. It might be sung by somebody else. It might be like Nora Jones, or it might be whoever else. Even that what's his face Darius Rucker, that Wagon Wheel song that got big a few years ago. That's by Bob Dylan. It's just he's got a way with words.
That's what I like. The Mumford and Sons song, the one that I don't even know what it's called. The one that opens up with when the winter wind litters London with lonely hearts.
I use that line in my lit class because it's got great alliteration.
Yeah, but it's not just alliteration, but it's alliteration that paints a picture, and because of the alliteration with the litters London with lonely hearts, it sounds like the way a leaf would fall, going back and forth and back and forth, like it's that shallow.
It sounds like a winter wind,
Yeah, but it's that. But you know what I mean? The litter. Yeah. It's that swinging back and forth. Yeah. And anyways, that's a beautiful line. But most of the time, what happens is that it just gets to be too much for me as the album goes on. I'm like, I can't turn it off. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I try. I make like a Spotify list out of songs that I like that I think will make me feel peppy. But
right. But if it's just a straight I'm going to listen through an album,
make me feel Peppy Le Pew instead of Peppy. Yeah. Clean the house up.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, and then last thing. Okay, your kitchen's on fire, and you can only save one thing out of it, and it's not your children. They're safe.
My kids are safe.
Your kids are safe. Your laptop's already out, and your family photos.
Laptop.
Has your photos on it?
My laptop is one of actually. That's the bad news. It doesn't. My photos are in constant jeopardy of my phone dying.
Okay.
However,
so whatever. Your phone's out.
I would probably say it would be my Le Creuset Dutch oven, my huge one.
You have the huge one.
I have the biggest Dutch oven that Le Creuset makes. However, I don't know that would be a wise choice because running out of the house with that thing,
I'm just saying it's not going to be like your salad spinner that you're going to take.
No, somehow, no, not going to be. I don't have a salad spinner, so it can't be that.
I used that illustration.
Anything but the salad spinner that I don't have. No, that's probably
Is that your most used item?
You do use it a lot, but I probably use some other things more, but that would be much easier to replace. So, you know, what about you?
That's funny because I was going to say my Le Creuset Dutch oven probably, but
I don't know.
I don't have
to
the
think
huge one. I have the one that's down a size, and I really could use the big one.
I like to think of us running out of our houses with our Dutch ovens under our arms.
But you know what? I've started using my cast iron skillets a lot. I've been really on a cast iron kick lately. They're really doing it for me right now.
Yeah, they're cool.
And you get into trouble when you need to scrape it out. You need to scrape it out into a bowl because it's very hard to hold with your left hand.
I need 3 assistants to come in here and hold it with a pot holder.
Well, and the handle gets really hot, so you have to have a mitt on, So that's kind of unfortunate. But I I'm really liking the cast iron. And I've also gotten into let's just deal with wooden spoons. Who needs an ergonomically handled silicone?
But we've had long grievances with the OXO. It was was I going to get tendonitis from the pastry cutter? I don't think so. But there's something about that to me that's just make the dang thing fit in a drawer. We don't need a big handle.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but it's I'm really bonding with my just plain wooden spoons. Not fancy
you're
wooden
going
spoons.
Primitive, and I should give you some of my
I need one of your
starter.
basket thing that I think is a batten and you think is a Bannatyne. But it's a Bannatyne. I think
it has a lot of names. Bannatyne and a Bratform. I think a Bratform is a German name for it. Bannatyne is a French name.
Is
I thought a batten is actually a shape of a loaf.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I just made that up.
It's a short baguette.
But anyway, I'm having this kind of moment of the cast iron and the wooden spoon. There's something just about the design there.
Well, I also have a thing.
It's just good.
In all areas of life, it's the primitive things are really fun to me. The things that have been done for a long time. And
but there's a reason they're a classic.
Right. Because they just do the job. You're a cast iron pan isn't going to
and it might scorch here or there, but it's not going to melt if you leave it.
It's not going to flake off a Teflon coating on you. It's going to stay as it was.
I have these rubber spatulas with notches melted out.
Mine are all like that too. It's the worst.
Yeah, and see, somehow when a wooden spoon ages, it just gets a little more
rugged looking. Yeah. I got really snookered by the King Arthur flour, which I like them a lot.
Well, they've got a good branding.
Yeah, they do. I have a big King Arthur apron, and it's just, I love theirs. I love it. And it's an old company, but they were marketing some sale on their collection of 12 wooden spoons. They were in this muslin bag. They were all these different sizes of them, but they were on a clearance sale for $100 or something. And the bad part is how much I was I probably need those. It's a wooden spoon you can buy 3 for 75 cents anywhere.
No, but some of them are bad, those little whiffly handles that snap.
I hate when the handle bends immediately as soon as it gets wet.
Annoying. Yeah, wet or it snaps.
And it looks more like our scimitar.
Try and find one to slice your bread with. Okay.
Or stir your coffee in your samovar.
We gotta go.
We gotta go.
And
it's been good. I gotta get coffee for tomorrow.
You do. You need coffee in the morning.
That's why I'm in the Walmart parking lot now. Gotta face the music.
So,
till next
time.
We'll
do this again. We'll do it again. Gotta go.
Bye.
That's right.